The world is fortunate to have Charles Grodin since he was one of the few truly remarkable people in history. He won people over with his natural charisma and brilliant abilities. This remarkable man made an everlasting impression on the worlds of film, television, and beyond, and today we're highlighting him. It would be remiss to ignore Charles Grodin's humble beginnings when celebrating his life. We can learn a lot about the circumstances, obstacles, and decisions that mold a person's path in life from their early life stories. They show us that greatness takes time to develop. It is nurtured, and its foundation is frequently modest or surprising. Even Grodin's formative years were marked by this. Charles Sidney Grodin was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on April 21, 1935, into a family with deep cultural and historical roots. Hard work and community service were principles exemplified by his parents, Theodore and Lena Grodin. A real multitasker, Lena not only helped out with her husband's business, but she also volunteered her time to help disabled veterans. Theodore maintained a wholesale supply store. Grodin's family tree tells a fascinating tale of migration and history. The name Grodinski was initially given to him by his paternal grandpa, but he later simplified it to Grodin. As they try to assimilate into American society, many immigrant families go through this transition. The tale took an even worse turn when we turned to his mother's side. Her Jewish father came to the United States from Russia and came from a long line of rabbis. He bravely forged a fresh path in early 1900s Baltimore, weighed down by the weight of tradition. The Grodin family had more than one kid, Charles included. He spent his childhood playing with his elder brother, Jack. They shared a background that emphasized the importance of education, hard work, and being a part of a strong community. Charles spent his formative years in the bustling city of Pittsburgh, known for its tight-knit neighborhoods and hard-working spirit. Charles, a young man, was greatly influenced by his educational experiences. He was more than a regular kid at Peabody High, he stood out. Grodin showed signs of the performer he would become as a leader and charismatic individual, being elected class president year after year and graduating valedictorian. People around him noticed a charismatic quality about him. Yet Pittsburgh was just the beginning of Grodin's aspirations. He attended the University of Miami after finishing high school, and at first, he followed the typical college route. Still, Grodin felt a tug from his interests, and he knew his true home wasn't there. For him, acting was more than a hobby, it was his life's work. Grodin took a risk by dropping out of the University of Miami before graduating to focus on acting full-time. Taking this chance would shape his life in the long run. On his way to New York City, he enrolled at the famous HB Studio to fully immerse himself in the art form. He trained under the illustrious Uta Hagen, an esteemed acting instructor renowned for her rigor in technique and authenticity. The period that Grodin spent learning from Hagen was formative. His trademark subtle comedic timing would subsequently appear on stage and cinema, and he mastered the art of delving deeply into character. His dedication to his work extended beyond mere performance, it extended to comprehending and artistically expressing the universal human experience. Actually, it's more than just his timing. His talent for adding a personal touch to comedic situations, or his penchant for making everything he worked on better. Reason being, his trip through Hollywood was anything but straight line, it was a labyrinth of unexpected detours and opportunities for reinvention. Grodin's film career got off to the most humble start imaginable with an uncredited cameo in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, a 1954 Disney production. Despite the lack of star power, this event laid the groundwork for an outstanding acting career. Concurrently, Grodin continued her training with the illustrious acting instructors Lee Strasberg and Uta Hagen, who were renowned for their exacting techniques and unwavering commitment to realism. Grodin started to become popular in the 1960s thanks to his work on theater and television. In his first Broadway production, Chin Chin, he co-starred with the late, great Anthony Quinn. Even though it would have been intimidating for most actors to share the stage with such a renowned performer, Grodin proved that he could hold his own by displaying his talent for both comedy and drama. During this time, he dabbled in directing as well, helming productions of plays including Hooray and Thieves. He hinted at a multifaceted future ahead with his ability to switch between acting, writing, and directing. Midway through the 1960s, Grodin began to gain notoriety as a television personality. He was a regular on hit series including The Virginian and portrayed the role of Matt Stevens on The Young Marrieds, an ABC soap opera. Even though he was making progress, his breakthrough occurred in an unforeseen manner. In Roman Polanski's legendary 1968 horror picture Rosemary's Baby, he played a minor but crucial role. Even in a small part, Grodin proved he could make an impact with his disturbing performance as an obstetrician. Grodin was not hesitant to decline possibilities that did not fit with his vision, even if his list of credits was always expanding. His rejection of Benjamin Braddock's part in The Graduate stands out as a prime illustration of this. Grodin turned down the position because of the low salary, despite producer Lawrence Turman's assurances that it would propel him to prominence. Dustin Hoffman, who shot to fame after landing the part, ended up playing the lead. In retrospect, Grodin appears to have felt no remorse for his choice. He was about to embark on a new chapter in his professional life, one that would likely play to his strengths even more. In 1972, Grodin finally broke through with Elaine May's dark romantic comedy The Heartbreak Kid. Grodin portrayed a newlywed who, while on their honeymoon with his neurotic spouse, leaves her to seek a rich blonde, Sybil Shepherd, in the role. Both the picture and Grodin's performance were critically acclaimed. His performance by Grodin was so heartfelt that his character, who was egotistical, socially awkward, and frequently completely unlikable, was strangely captivating. Grodin confessed that he thought the character portrayed in The Heartbreak Kid was a horrible person, but he acted it out with complete authenticity. Judgment is not my responsibility. His reputation as a daring comedic actor was cemented in the picture. Grodin deftly juggled parts in films and plays during the 1970s. He co-starred with Ellen Burstyn in the 1975 romantic comedy Same Time Next Year, which dealt with a long-term affair between two individuals. Critics praised Grodin for his performance as a nervous, anxious man, and audiences loved the show thanks to his connection with Burstyn. Even when Burstyn won a Tony for her performance, Grodin kept shining in his own subtle way. His portrayal of a cunning lawyer in Heaven Can Wait was only one of the many Hollywood hits he had. In the same year, he was nominated for an Emmy, but not for acting, for his work on Paul Simon's Songs of America television special. 10 years later, in 1988's Midnight Run, Grodin portrayed the part of Jonathan Mardukas, a mob accountant on the run after stealing millions of dollars. Jack Walsh, played by Robert De Niro, is a bounty hunter who was assigned the mission of returning him to justice. Grodin and De Niro's relationship is crucial to the film's success, which combines comedic elements with action and emotional scenes. Some of the most iconic moments in the film were their impromptu on-screen chemistry. During one scene, the character played by Grodin asks Walsh, played by De Niro, if he has ever had Lyonnaise potatoes. The comic brilliance of Grodin was on full display in this statement because of how ridiculously inappropriate it was. Among the most illustrious critics of the period, Roger Ebert lauded Grodin for his performance in Midnight Run, saying that he was equal to De Niro's passion. Ebert said that Grodin discovers the emotional truth that characterizes their connection in the pivotal last scene. Thought to be one of his finest roles, Grodin's performance in the picture has stood the test of time. Grodin found new success in the early 1990s when he shifted his focus to family comedy. His portrayal of a struggling father coping with a naughty Saint Bernard in Beethoven was touching and funny. Grodin returned for a second film in the series, Beethoven Second, after the original was a huge hit. Grodin gave a self-deprecating, as usual, explanation for why he embarked on such a silly enterprise. "My services are not very sought after. Their desire for me is simply delightful." Grodin, for all his achievements, was never content to bask in the limelight. To devote more time to his family and other pursuits, he left Hollywood in 1994. He uprooted his life to Connecticut and started making appearances on late-night talk shows, where his peculiar blend of grouchiness and self-pity amused and confused viewers. Notable for their unpredictable nature, his appearances on Johnny Carson's The Tonight Show and Late Night with David Letterman became famous. Talking with a deadpan face about his job or making critical comments to his hosts. Grodin clarified afterwards that it had been a prank. The crowd probably didn't get the humor, but Carson and Letterman did. With the CNBC talk show in the mid-1990s, Grodin brought his image to prime time. His blunt, opinionated demeanor set him apart from other hosts on the show. It was impossible to miss Grodin's wit and irreverence, whether he was attacking current events or Jackie Collins. His talent for putting his visitors at ease while also making them feel little uneasy was what drew in viewers. In his last years, Charles Grodin was far from silent. Grodin, in contrast to many in the entertainment industry, tended to crank up his activity as he got older, exploring new projects and rekindling old interests. Some may have seen the 1998 termination of Grodin's talk show as a professional setback, but for him, it was the start of a new and exciting chapter. A little thing like age wasn't going to slow down the man who previously thrived on deadpan humor and cutting wit. Following the cancellation of his chat show, Grodin returned to writing, an activity in which he had dabbled for some time. He wrote humorous memoirs that were both autobiographical and full of self-deprecating anecdotes and astute insights about fame, life, and the ridiculousness of it all. Titles such as "We're Ready for You, Mr. Grodin, and It Would Be So Nice If You Weren't Here" won over fans with their honest and humorous commentary. Grodin had no qualms about making light of himself, his profession, or humanity as a whole. His writing style was just like his on-screen character. Insightful, dry, and constantly one step ahead of the audience. Reading his works was like taking a journey into his world. They served as a constant reminder of his exceptional people skills. He was quite good at making light of serious situations. Whoever he was talking to, whether it was about an uncomfortable encounter on set or the peculiarities of Hollywood, respected his candor and refusal to sugarcoat his experiences. Reading one of his books was like having a drawn-out, amusing chat with a slightly grumpy but incessantly interesting buddy. Grodin wrote novels and a weekly column for the New York Daily News for almost 10 years. His weekly writings gave readers a glimpse into his life through a combination of humor, commentary, and personal reflections. No matter if he was analyzing a news article or telling a personal anecdote, Grodin's voice was consistent and memorable. He had a remarkable talent for making people laugh out loud at seemingly inane subjects. Fans who devoured his unique viewpoint and quick wit made sure to read his pieces every week. While this was going on, Grodin was also active in other ways besides writing. He was also a commentator on 60 Minutes too, where he provided intelligent and amusing portions. Whether he was talking about politics, culture, or the minor ironies of life, Grodin always brought his trademark wit and intelligence. Although Grodin achieved great success as a writer and pundit, he never ceased to harbor a passion for performing. He surprised everyone by making a triumphant acting comeback in his 70s and 80s. His return was a pleasant surprise for viewers who had missed him on screen. Among Grodin's many notable appearances was a guest turn on the smash comedy Lewis. In his role as a no-nonsense doctor, Grodin brought back memories of his hilarious acting prowess. His deadpan delivery and superb timing demonstrated that he hadn't lost a step. The 2016 miniseries Madoff featured Grodin in a more dramatic role as Carl Shapiro, a man whose life was shattered by Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scam. Grodin played the job with subtlety and depth, despite the fact that it was a change from his humorous background. His ability to master multi-layered characters was on full display even as he entered his 80s. However, Grodin frequently made light of the fact that his roles as a disgruntled talk show guest may have been his most memorable. It was his argument. Legends were born throughout those performances. Grodin was so good at playing his own wonderfully irascible character that he could make audiences laugh with his deadpan humor and fake anger. Upon hearing that Bette Midler had received an Emmy for an appearance on a talk show, he couldn't help but crack a joke about himself. He made a joke about how he had no idea anyone could be nominated to be a guest. On a discussion show, I may have gotten an award for Best Actor. I could have fit into that category. Much of Grodin's retirement was devoted to charitable activities, in addition to his career in show business. He dedicated himself wholeheartedly to helping the homeless and became a vocal supporter of their cause, such as human habitation. However, Grodin came to his task unrecognized. It was morally correct, in his opinion. The selfless way he dedicated himself to assisting others mirrored his belief in the power of his platform to effect positive change. Grodin kept his quick mind and lighthearted personality as he aged. He never let himself become too serious about things. His charming sense of humor won over both his admirers and his co-workers. Even outside of film and theater, his comedic talent was on full display. Seeing him in person was hilarious. His ability to find humor in the most unlikely of situations and elevate the mundane to the extraordinary was something that his loved ones frequently recalled. On May 18, 2021, at the age of 86, Grodin's life tragically came to a close. Surrounded by loved ones, he passed away at his home in Wilton, Connecticut. Multiple myeloma, a form of cancer he had fought with his usual tenacity, was the cause of his death. His extraordinary life came to a close with his departure, but his work as an artist, writer, and humanitarian will endure. Upon hearing of his passing, many people, including fans, friends, and former co-stars, took to social media to pay their respects. According to Steve Martin's tweet, "So sad to hear, he had worked with Grodin on The Lonely Guy. Very funny, definitely one of the most entertaining persons I've ever encountered." In real life, Grodin was directed by Albert Brooks, who gushed over him as a talented comedian and said how much fun it was to work with him. Grodin was a talented, kind man and a great friend, according to Mia Farrow, who worked with him in Rosemary's Baby and gave a touching tribute. In her writing, she included a passing reference to Charles Grodin's portrayal of Dr. Hill in the classic film. Then, throughout the years, he was my friend Chuck, always straightforward, amusing, and kind. Even the notoriously irreverent Kathy Griffin recalled seeing Grodin in her own life. She tweeted her affection for Charles Grodin. "I couldn't help but laugh with delight as he would bust my balls and give me so much shit. Quick and bright without ever being mean-spirited." Griffin also included a clip from Grodin's now infamous interview with Sean Hannity, in which he playfully insulted Hannity, a conservative talk show presenter, by calling him a fascist. It was unadulterated Grodin at his finest, strong, direct, and classic. Grodin was praised even by younger comics such as Billy Eichner. Eichner tweeted, "God, I loved him," joining the chorus of admirers who had found motivation in Grodin's writing. When we consider Charles Grodin's life story, we see that he was a multi-talented individual. He continued to reinvent himself throughout his life as a storyteller, philanthropist, and pioneer. He had an unquenchable thirst for adventure. Things didn't sit well with him, or relying on his image as the charming Hollywood star. He had the ability to make you laugh till your sides ache, and then give a performance that was so moving that it had you speechless. What made Grodin so memorable was his deftness in balancing honesty with satire, comedy, and drama. In a nutshell, Grodin's unique selling point was his genuineness. His genuineness and lack of pretense made him a hit with audiences. "Being a little cranky, eccentric, and flawed is totally fine," he told us. Actually, it was precisely because of that he became so iconic and approachable. To what extent does Charles Grodin impress you? His warmth, his sense of humor, or perhaps it was simply the way he had us all in fits of laughter? Whatever it is, there is certainty about one thing. Because he was here, the world is more beautiful.